Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
And I may or may not be the last man on Earth. Tara may or may not be the last woman on Earth, and that is good. It was topical.
Depends on when this goes out.
It depends, yes. The way 2020 is going, it's entirely possible we'll get there. But we are on this week's episode, so it's a sci-fi movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a movie every week. It's that simple. And in this week, we're kind of it's not a franchise per se, but we're returning to a series of adaptations. We did Vincent Price's The Last Man on Earth a number of months ago now. It was a while ago. And we did say we'd eventually come back and do the next adaptation of it, which is The Omega Man, which is what we're doing today, starring Charlton Heston. And obviously, there was a Will Smith version called I Am Legend much later in 2007, which we'll get to at some point. But we're here today to talk about this one. And it's funny because I saw the I Am Legend movie first. I saw that when it came out before I saw either of the old versions. And I remember seeing this for the first time and being like, oh, they're starting with him in the red car, just like I Am Legend. There's a comparison there. Not that I remember a ton of details. I said this a lot in the last one, to be honest, but same kind of...
No, the opening scene is very similar.
Yeah.
Though, because he goes to another garage to get a new car.
Yeah. So there's definitely fragments that are there that are shared with the earlier film. There's fragments that are shared with the later film. I have no idea which one of the three is the most accurate or the least accurate, but there's definitely some similarities between two of them, but not all three, and there's a mix in it. Because the last one, if you recall, was very, really leaned heavily into these beings are vampires to the point where there was garlic up on doors, there was crosses, there's all that stuff. Mm-hmm. There is none of that in the Omega Man whatsoever. You would have no idea that that's what they're doing. The only thing is that they're sensitive to light, but it's more about their eyes than it is their skin. It's not like they're burning in sunlight. It's just that they're sensitive to light. So, anyway, so the basic premise, if you're not familiar, is that Charlton Heston here is the last man, seemingly, on Earth, and he has the entire city to himself, except that there is a new species, if you will, of humans that have transformed into this new... society. That's maybe a bit of a stretch to call them a society, but and he sort of fears for his life and is hunting them down, and he takes what he wants from the city and survives on his own. But of course, throughout the story, eventually there is going to be another human or two, and he's going to sort of go through a whole plot. So that's the gist of it. We'll leave it there. We'll give you a warning before we go into spoilers, of course, in the middle. And yeah, I suppose I'll ask the question, Tara. How did you feel about the Omega Man?
I liked it. I think I liked it about as much as I liked The Last Man on Earth. Maybe slightly more. It's fun. I like watching Charlton Heston and his stunt double ride a motorcycle.
That stunt double was so obvious. It couldn't have been more obvious.
I like the female lead in this a lot too. I thought she was really, really cool, and yeah, it's all right. I really like the main villain guy, and the look of they have a cultist look to them, and I guess they're kind of a cult. The plagued beings, but I don't love the film. I really wanted to because I love Charlton Heston movies, but this one I don't love.
You don't love? Okay. I agree with the not loving. I would probably say I like it less than the last one overall. And because one of the things there that I definitely disagree with is I hated how the villains looked. They're wearing sunglasses, they've all got hoods up. They just look so goofy to me.
Yeah. It's an interesting adaptation. I think it's an interesting look though. It's still intriguing enough, and I think they seem to be functioning. Their minds are all there for the most part.
Yeah, that's the other thing is the leader Matthias, who's the leader of this group. He is constantly monologuing. He's giving speeches left and right. He does not shut up.
Yeah, he was like a real Glenn Beck before the plague hit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just everything about the villains. Just if you can even call them that, but you know what I mean. Everything about that group, it came off as really cheesy, and I don't know. It's And I don't know, maybe this is more accurate to the original story. I have no idea. But it felt like they wanted them to like be really different. So we're going to just go in a completely different direction. So this is what they are. They're wearing sunglasses and
This
they're giving
movie's really
speeches.
cool. Like everything's cool about it. Like the leads are cool. The score is really cool. All the villains wear sunglasses. Like everybody and dressed in black. Everything's really cool and funky, like 70s funk.
And I think that's kind of why I think it feels a bit off to me, is that it doesn't really... I don't really get the feeling that it's dire, that this is the post-apocalypse. Even though everything's empty, it just kind of feels like, I don't know, like, we're all pretending. Like, it doesn't feel real.
I mean, there's some pretty impressive shots of an empty Los Angeles.
I'm not sure. I mean, like, I agree they are impressive, and they did what they could to create that. I'm not talking about convincing me that it's empty. That's not what I'm talking about the tone. I'm talking about feeling like things are actually in a bad place, like he's actually scared for his survival, or like this is, just I didn't get any of that. Charlton Heston in this movie doesn't give a shit that he's the last person left. He doesn't. He goes around cracking one-liners. It's like nothing's happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems a little bit like Charlton Heston's like wet dream of just being around on his own in a sports car and shooting anything that moves in the windows.
Yes, that does feel very pro Charlton Heston. Did you know this movie was rated GP? And you're saying, what's GP? I looked this up. I was curious. So GP
Gangster's Paradise, obviously.
GP for 2 years, or 3 years technically, 1970 to 1972. So a very short window of time. This came out in 1971. Was basically just what PG was called before they called it PG. So it's not quite G-rated, but for something that's essentially PG, there's like multiple boobs in this movie, and
yes, there are.
although notably not bush. This was a theme when we did the first 70s month. There was so much bush, and the
right.
10,
we haven't gotten any yet.
Yeah, and the 10 films we did, I think like 7 of them had bush.
Yeah. Even A Boy and His Dog.
I know. And this did have TNA, to be fair, so it did have a decent amount in the genre, but it wasn't quite that. But I mean, it's PG. What the hell?
Well, yeah, it's just boobs. You need the bush to go higher up on the rating, I guess.
Oh, apparently, yeah. You got R rating unless you got bush. Do you know what?
We only have one movie left. I don't know if we're gonna get bush.
I'm worried that I don't think we will, because I've seen the movie that we're going to do before. That said, though, Jenny Agutter's in it, and she is maybe the prettiest of anyone we've had in any 70s movies. So just
what movie are we doing?
Logan's Run.
No. We're doing the Beware the Blob.
Oh, so we've got 2 left.
Yeah, we have 2 left.
Yes, okay. Beware the Blob. I mean, I may have bush. I don't know.
We get some blob bush. That's hard
Blob
to
say. So, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. There was this rating that only existed for 2 years, and it was just PG. That's all it means. It's just they didn't come up with parental guidance yet.
I do buy Charlton Heston as a survivor much more than I do Vincent Price in The Last Man on Earth.
That is fair. But I'm going to counter that with another point. Do you buy Charlton Heston as a scientist in a lab coat making a vaccine? I don't think you do. You know you can't say yes.
I don't know. Maybe?
No. This was like, if this is. I mean, I'm not saying he's the exact same, because I think Heston's a better on-screen charismatic performer than who I'm about to compare him to. But this is like if you put a lab coat on Marky Mark and tell me Mark Wahlberg's a scientist all of a sudden, I'm just going to believe. No, he's not a scientist. No offense to the man, but he's not a scientist.
I mean, there was a time where scientists were like revered. You know, they were the rock stars of the 1930s.
It come back to a flashback of him at one point, and he's in his lab coat and he's looking at some test tubes, and I'm just like, nah.
I'm sure there are very cool, very charismatic, macho scientists out there. I mean, I haven't met them yet, and I do work in the science field, but I mean, I'm sure there's at least 3 or 4 of them out there.
I don't buy it. Vincent Price I bought as a scientist. He comes off as a scientist. Even Will Smith, I think, comes off more of a scientist. Even because Will Smith's this cool dude, right? But he's still like he performs enough that he gels into being a scientist. Whereas Charlton Heston is always Charlton Heston. He can't turn off Charlton Heston.
No, he can't.
So he always comes off. He even does the Planet of the Apes laugh at one point in this.
Yeah, he does.
He throws his head back and does the laugh. Well, I can't tell you why until we get to spoilers, but he does it at a very particular point.
I also don't buy him being really into watching the movie Woodstock.
Yeah, that's one of the first things he does is he goes to the theater and he loads up the projector on his own and just sits and watches. And he's like, they don't make movie pictures that they used to. I'm like, what? Was Woodstock even that old by 1971?
Well, no, because I think it was the documentary Woodstock that I think it was just the last thing that was playing.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, before the world ended.
I mean, I guess the joke is they just don't make anything anymore, but it felt weird to me as a joke because I'm like, yeah, but that's still contemporary. Because the movie, I think, technically is set in 1977 because they mention, because the last year that had a calendar was 75, and he says at one point that he's been doing this like dance with the villains for 2 years. So I'm assuming that means that it's set in 1977. If not, then thereabouts. So, yeah, there's your timeline.
Yep.
Yeah. The backstory's a little bit different from the last movie as well. We'll get into that. Maybe more in spoilers though, just so they'll save details for then. But there's some interesting differences there. What I do think is interesting compared to Last Man on Earth though, is that the end point of Last Man on Earth kind of happens like a third into this movie, and then the movie keeps going into like a completely different plot essentially, which you know, I appreciate in the sense that we watched both of them, so I appreciate that they're different and I'm not just watching the same thing again.
Well, they're both adapted from the same thing too, so I mean, I'm sure a lot of the similarities come from that.
Oh, for sure, but I'm talking about what's different about them. Is that literally this movie gets to the ending of the last movie about a third of the way through, and then the rest of it's all new. So, and I don't know, I mean, maybe that's all from the book as well, and maybe the first movie just cut out tons and tons of stuff to simplify it. I don't know, but this goes way further with like a lot of ideas, and it does kind of like they're all guilty of this to a point, but I think this one compared to the last one, the meaning of the title I Am Legend, which admittedly neither of these are called I Am Legend, but I think the last movie did a better job with the ending of kind of like getting the point across as to what that title means. Because it was this big climatic thing. I won't get into it too much, but if you watched the last review or if you've seen Last Man on Earth, you know, it ends with kind of him realizing something at the end of the story, and it kind of makes this big dramatic point of saying this is why it's I Am Legend. It's why he's this legend to these other people. He's this boogeyman to them. This movie, there's like one offhand comment from Matthias, like a third of the way through, and then it doesn't really feel like a big deal, and then it's never really all that relevant, all that much. It takes a different tactic with it, which I guess is fine, but you know, for comparison's sake, it's interesting to look at.
Yeah. I never read the book, or if it is a book or a novella, I don't know, but it's so I don't know which one is closer either, but I do like how The Last Man on Earth still has that point at the end of it. And this one totally, you know, because we've already made that point so early on in the film, it doesn't really hit as hard at the end.
It doesn't feel as important, no. It kind of almost makes a new point at the end instead, which we'll get to obviously when we talk about it, but it's definitely different. So.
But I don't dislike it. Like I actually do kind of get into the look of the of the baddies. I think it's interesting, the choices that they went with. I don't know about like the way their hair like all transforms to white, like when to go white at the roots first and then grow out white, but that's whatever. That's the only thing that bothers me.
Some of those wigs look pretty dodgy, I have to say. What's a bit in the rough side?
I like the Matthias though. I like him a lot. Like his henchmen and stuff around him, I don't love either. Especially in the beginning, like his main guy is not very good. But actual Matthias, like I like him. I liked watching him. Am I saying the name wrong?
No, you're saying it right.
Okay.
I did not. It's just the point. I don't have anything really. Yeah, I don't know.
He's a good actor, and he's in Star Trek.
I thought it was cheesy. Of course, he's in Star Trek.
Well, he's in Star Trek Insurrection. He plays an admiral, a badmiral.
A bad. They're all Badmirals in Star Trek, unless it happens to be one of the main characters who's been promoted to Admiral, in which case they're the only ones that are not Badmirals, they're just Admirals.
Right.
Even in Picard, when Picard himself is an Admiral, the other Admiral's a Badmiral.
Well, I think he's in the Matrix movies too.
Who's in the Matrix movies?
The counselor? Yeah, Counselor Hammond. He's like the main guy in the place where the raves are. Zion.
Oh, Zion, okay. I have to admit I've forgotten a lot of those sequels, so if he wasn't in the first Matrix, I'm probably not going to remember him.
I think he's also a Bond villain. He's in License to Kill.
He's got the cheesiness for it, so that doesn't surprise me.
He's got great eyebrows. Really, really great eyebrows. They're like extra arched, which makes him automatically a super villain.
I did not enjoy his performance. I will simply leave it at that, and we can
I liked him.
We can move on. I also thought it was kind of oddly. It felt like kind of weird to me. Like I enjoy when movies have quiet moments, especially in stories like this. I enjoy it in I Am Legend. I enjoy it in other stories where a character's just doing things, and we kind of like see by what they're doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But there was definitely some of the pacing in this where I kind of felt like it was being so lackadaisical with like Heston going about his day. And also, where is he getting fresh sausages 2 years later, exactly?
I noticed.
Also fresh fruit as well on his table.
There might be some trees.
Okay, true. Maybe some trees. I'm just saying, he's very well stocked, still.
Yeah.
For stuff that should have run
sausages, I don't know. Like, they look like regular fresh ones, not like the Petridge Farm ones that hold, I don't know if that's what it is. The ones you get at Christmas time, the salamis that like last for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't know. I mean, it's something we made fun of the last movie about as well, is that he seemed to have things that didn't really make sense. That
he had like orange juice and...
Yeah. Yeah, the orange. Where's these oranges coming from? I mean, unless he's actually... And it was like a carton of oranges. It would be one thing if he had like a jug, I'd be like, okay, maybe he went and got oranges himself, right?
Well, did he go into like a grocery store and just pick up produce? Like, did we watch it? He got garlic.
Yeah, he got garlic like that, yeah. Which we questioned, wouldn't that have lost its smell and everything by now? It's been ages. It's been years. Anyway, I mean, we could sit and nitpick at
that's why he went to go replace it, right? Because he smelled the one on his door and was like, oh, this is no good anymore. I should go get fresh garlic from the grocery store.
Yes. Which is still good.
And Heston needs to have a generator to run his stuff in his home, but for some reason the movie theater still runs.
Which also, he also had a generator, because we see him like start it up before he puts the film reel in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a generator.
I missed that part.
Yeah. For some reason, so he's got like TVs in his like house, his apartment that's at the top of this building, and he has like, and I get why he's got cameras that are like facing the entrances and all that, because obviously he's watching out for these people getting. But for some reason, the main screen is a camera just facing exactly whoever's looking at the main screen, so it's just himself. What?
Yeah.
What's the?
I just attributed that to his like loneliness. He needed someone to talk to, so he's just talking to himself. I mean, you do it every day on camera.
I'm not talking to myself. I'm talking to you.
Well, sometimes you talk to yourself.
Okay, yes, but I'm talking to an audience. I'm talking to people who are going to hear it later. That's different.
Maybe he's hoping there's an audience out there. He's just predicting YouTube.
Yes, he's predicting the internet's going to be invented when the world's completely went to shit.
He's a smart guy. Scientist.
To sum up my thoughts, I think the movie's watchable. I don't think it's that good though. I would kind of put it in the it's an okay afternoon watch. you know, Sunday afternoon, you can put on this, and time will go by relatively decently. But I
mean,
feel
the
like
music's like really fun, so it's almost like you're watching a different movie when you're watching.
yeah. Yeah, but I think too much of it feels a little undercooked to me, and it feels like some of the ideas just feel like they're a bit on the silly side, and some of the ideas aren't realized in the way they should be. So I find I have a hard time believing any of it's really going on, and because people are going to say, "Oh, you're being cruel because of the time it was made." Well, no, because tons of movies of this era, I think, do achieve these things, do achieve me being lost in the world, and this just doesn't. Yeah. So
I think actually a better version of these movies, even though they're not quite the same, is another one we did for 70s month, which was Ultimate Warrior, which is kind of that, you know, there's two factions of people trying to survive in like an empty city, and that one I think is a lot better.
And that was better, although still flawed. I feel like we've not had the great one yet, right? We've not had the movie set in the abandoned city with like two tribes or whatever. We've not had the movie that we go, that's the 9 out of 10 version. That's the one that we can put up there with, like, when we talk about, like, okay, Halloween's the 10 out of 10 slasher movie, Alien's the 10 out of 10, you know, monster movie. We don't have the 10 out of 10.
We don't have our urban jungle.
The urban jungle movie. Yes, we don't have
post-apocalyptic. Yeah. Survival film.
We have tons of them. We have tons of cheap ones, and we have, you know, several from the 70s. We have tons from like no budget stuff from the 80s and 90s, but we don't have the good one. We don't have that great one. Yeah. We have some interesting ones. We have some stuff that gets some things right, but we don't have that, because I think the idea is great. I think there's a great idea in here, like a great movie to be had, but it's not quite hammed yet. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too.
Come on, Hollywood.
I mean, hell, after 2020, maybe some of the cities will be quiet enough. You can go shoot one relatively easily.
Yeah.
So, no, it's actually funny because we see like a quick flashback at one point of like people getting this virus. Like they literally just start dying in the streets almost instantly, just en masse. Yeah. And I'm like, where are all these bodies?
And nobody's panicking.
Yeah, where are all these bodies when he's driving around? If everyone was dying this quickly,
the sausages.
Oh dear. There's something to be said about that. I mean, if all that meat's just lying there going to waste, it's not like anyone killed them intentionally. Might as well use it.
No, never.
Inhuman. No.
I mean, no one's around to judge him, but like, no.
Yeah, actually, I think that's the other thing, is that because the baddies feel like such a like intelligent society anyway, it doesn't actually ever really feel like he's alone. So that whole feeling of being the last man on Earth just isn't there, I don't think.
Because the first film had like, you know, it was just the one guy constantly, Norman, and we know who he used to be. So seeing him and in both like before and after he got sick, we can go like, oh, like they're not human anymore. There's something monstrous and something that's just running off of instincts. But these people, like, they're having, like you said, the guy's got like a whole diatribe every time he speaks, and he seems very much like the person he used to be, just with a different belief system. Yeah,
but for some reason, when they do turn, they just immediately fall in line and believe him as the leader and don't question anything he says. So, I mean, that just feels like a goofy, cheesy like mechanic. He feels like a, dare I say, a bad Star Trek episode.
Dare you?
Forgive me. I apologize.
Unbelievable.
I lay my podcasting sword at your feet. Forgive me, oh Queen Tara. Okay, we should probably get to the spoilers now, so I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month at the time of recording. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, Brett Williams, and David Brown. They are our Patreon producers for the month, which means they are patrons at $20 or more. But you don't have to be a patron at that level, do you, Tara?
Why no? If you enjoy our reviews and want to get more bonus content, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of The Ace. And if you're looking for what movie? Oh, no, it's not Logan's Run, is it? Which one are we doing?
Yeah, we're doing Logan's Run. That's what won. Yeah.
That's a bonus movie, but that's...
It's not a bonus movie. That was the vote winner.
No, it's not a bonus movie. That's just a vote. What you can do at the $5.
Yes. I wasn't paying attention. You try to tell them what's the next bonus movie?
Yeah.
Oh, Ultraviolet is what we picked.
Oh, yeah, Ultraviolet. Get quality science fiction B movies on our bonus reviews.
With that false Resident Evil star, Mila Jovovich, the bitch.
That's Lulu Dallas multi-pass you're talking about.
I do love Fifth Element, so don't. I mean, I'm being fun. I'm trying to joke around because I hate those Resident Evil movies, but I do like Fifth Element a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, thank you.
How was that? Are we done with the Patreon plug?
Have a nice day.
And if you can't be a patron, if it's not financially, reasonable, then we get it. Hit the like button on YouTube. Comment. These things are also help us and support us. So please do all those things. That's great. Thank you. So,
thank you.
Full spoilers then for the Omega Man. Let's talk about the cause of this, because something they added in here, and again, I don't know if this is more accurate to the book or if this is just something new they added in, but it's not just a virus, it's actually germ warfare because World War III is going on. So, what did you make of that? Because I actually laughed because we literally go to a flashback. He's into an elevator and he presses a button, and when he presses the button, the flashback starts. I'm like, he literally started his flashback by pushing a button.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, I like the Soviet Union symbol as the bomb crashing onto the map, and yeah, he really got triggered by the smallest thing, not just buttons, but like other. He has this like when he leaves the movie theater and he just hears like phones ringing everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that because it was never brought up again. But yeah, he has this like phantom like sound moment where we hear all these phones ringing, and then he just yells to himself, "There's no phones ringing. There is no phone." And then I
maybe
just
that's not like PTSD trigger. Maybe that's just like his loneliness or whatever. And he's going crazy.
Yeah, I think this movie did a terrible job of actually getting his loneliness across. It was barely there, and I just want to say, him yelling out "There is no phone" just made me think of The Matrix. There is no spoon. I don't know. It made me think of it. But yeah, I didn't think I did a good job of like selling me his loneliness. There's like a moment where she's like a woman on a
It's a calendar.
Calendar, yeah. There's a calendar girl, and he kind of like kicks it down.
He like stopped and like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah,
we gotta get rid of it.
And he talks to himself a bit, but you never really get like a great sense of emotion from him. Like Charlton Heston is too manly to even pretend that he has emotions, so he has to just be Charlton Heston all the time.
I like his place though. I like his like shelter, his bunker. It's just full of like famous art and stuff. He just walked into a museum and stole. He has like a bust of somebody, I'm not sure who, that he dresses up as a general.
That was something that sitcom that took this, that was actually called The Last Man on Earth, did in the pilot episode. He goes into like the White House and takes just things out of the White House because why not?
Yeah, why not? Around. I like when he goes to the mall and he like tries on he's putting on all these clothes and stuff. He grabs like a tweed jacket. It looks just like the one that Vincent Price wore in The Last Man on Earth. That was kind of cute. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it looked just like it.
Although you were telling me before that he didn't know that previous version of this existed.
Yeah, I guess he's one of the he read like the book on a plane or something and thought someone should make a movie about this. But make it more modern, and this does feel very 70s modern.
It does. Obviously it feels super dated to us, but yeah, it feels modern in the sense that it feels like it's the 70s instead of 1960. But it's not even that much time. It's only 11 years since it's not even because it was like 64 the first one was. So yeah, it's only been like 7 years.
Another thing that makes it like super modern is that it's an interracial relationship that comes up in this film, which I was surprised by.
Yeah, actually, I was reading on the Wikipedia page of all places. This was when I was looking up the GP thing. but basically Whoopi Goldberg has often talked about how when she saw this when she was younger, she remembered it being as one of the first films with an interracial kiss. Now obviously Star Trek beat it, because Star Trek was the 60s on TV, but this is not TV, this is a movie.
Yeah, plus Star Trek kind of has some cheats. This is like actual lip locks.
Sure, yes. And this is, I mean, it's not even just that. It's like they go into a sex scene, and then, like, you know, she gets up out of the bed, and then there's a joke about the birth control, which, by the way, when I said he did the Planet of the Apes laugh, it's when she jokingly says, hey, maybe we need some birth control. He's like, and he just laughs maniacally. Anyway.
I'm trying to think if he does that in Soylent Green. I don't think so.
I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. That's 70s month number 3. Primed. So what was I going to? Yes, so yeah, Whoopi Goldberg was talked about it, and she had him on her talk show in the 90s or something, and I read that as a joke at one point when she was talking about it, he just leaned down and kissed her as a sort of impromptu example of an interracial kiss. Even in his old age, he was still a chancer.
Highly inappropriate, but way to go.
Yeah. But yeah, and then yeah, there was also this joke that, because she's much younger than him in this, obviously the actress, and I read this, but also did you? Tara was trying to tell me this trivia before we started, and I was like, Tara, I'm sorry, but I already read this trivia. And she looked so defeated. It's
the one thing I have to do.
It was just, I had one thing to look up, and I ended up reading a couple other things, but yeah, he had like a bit of like an like a crisis moment, or like a little shock in this when he was making this, because the actress Rosalind Cash felt weird about a sex scene with him. A, because it was one of her first starring roles, so she wasn't as used to doing it in movies, but B, because he was like in movies when she was a kid, and he was Moses.
Yeah,
so
I think that's the first thing I know him from. Well, maybe Planet of the Apes, but I watched, even though my family's not religious, I definitely watched the Ten Commandments a lot as a kid. Like, it was a movie I really loved watching. And yeah. I mean, maybe it wouldn't mean anything to me because I'm not religious. So, I mean, he's Moses in the same way as he's Taylor for me. You know, like Moses means nothing to me.
Yeah, he's just an old man. That's
yeah.
I think that's the big thing. He's an old man. Even here, by comparison, he's an older man.
I like their chemistry though in the film. Like
Rosalind Cash, I didn't realize this because obviously she's much younger here, but I actually just saw her on streams. We did Tales from the Hood. She's in that from the mid-90s. So, yeah, that's just cool. It's just cool that she was still in movies that were popping up that much later. So...
I actually saw that movie.
Way, look at you go.
I saw it in the 90s when it was on. It was on HBO.
And hey, one day we'll do Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension, and she's in that too.
I don't know why I'm not looking forward to that one.
It's got a weird reputation because I it's got Peter Weller in it, but apparently
I do love Peter Weller.
Apparently, it's really weird. I don't know. So anyway, to get back to the flow of the movie here, the first chunk of it's him spending too long in the movie theater. He has his like weird phone ringing moment. And then he's like, shit, the sun's going down, I need to get home. And it's actually kind of surreal just how similar like his entrance to his building is to the Vincent Price movie. It felt so similar to me when he's like getting in the garage and they're trying to get to him. But he gets up, he sees cameras, he's like, oh, it's Sunday, I dress up for Sundays when I'm having dinner. He makes his sausages. And then we get like a couple of scenes of him like basically try to do like kill like any like stragglers. He's looking for them, he's hunting them during the day. Which I thought the first movie did a much better job of like showing us the horror of this, because we got that montage in the first one of Vincent Price like basically busting in like rooms when they were asleep and killing them, and they're like and screaming. Here you never actually see him kill anyone. I mean, in these scenes we see him like when he's defending himself, but not in these scenes where he's hunting them, because he finds one who's already like dead because the plague's just got them, because even though they've changed, they're still dying, like they're still all dying just long term. I mean, I guess technically we're all dying long term, but you know what I mean. Like they're all still diseased.
I'm dying right now.
I'm dying right now. Commiserations in chat, please. Press F on the keyboard. It's a gaming thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But it's as he's looking for clothes, he hears a noise and he looks over, and our female lead, Lisa was the character's name? She's pretending to be one of the mannequins in the store, and it's like, come on, like it's quite obvious that she's not a mannequin. Like,
Right.
they look very different. And
She's doing her best.
yeah, she's trying to stay still.
But I mean, you can kind of buy it just because he hasn't seen somebody in so long that he's just maybe not quite believing what he's seen. So
Yeah,
he's like,
hallucinating. Yeah.
right. Either he's hallucinating or like she looks different, but he doesn't remember why she looks different. Okay.
Like, I always have to come back over, let the cat go on their own because they won't go when I'm over there, and then come back. This is a known system.
All right. Well, I've run out of things to say.
I love how you thought, yes, I covered till I got back, and then I immediately just like,
God damn it.
you'll be fine. Just what's next in the movie? You can steal the ship.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't need to be me all the time. You can do it.
Well, then he chases her.
He does, and then
The
the idiot gets captured because a bookshelf falls on him.
Wait, that happens there? I thought he races after her. He goes outside and stuff, and
Yeah, but it's like basically right after that where he's like looking through other places and then he gets captured. It's basically almost immediately next. So obviously in the original Vincent Price met someone, but that was like towards the end of the movie. Here it's like early on.
I'm glad we don't have a dog scene.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
okay with that part being cut.
Yeah, no dog in this. Don't worry, the dog's back with a vengeance, and I Am Legend. Look forward to that.
I know. I don't know, but I remember you talking about it.
Yeah. So he's actually like held captive. The villain comes in and monologues at him about how he's the old guard and we're the new guard. This is actually something me and Tim recently did a movie on Screams called The Girl with All the Gifts, and it was a zombie movie, but it was like a zombie movie with like a different kind of approach. And I thought this movie was going to try and go into kind of what that movie did, and it kind of does in some of the villain monologues, but it never actually follows through with it or like really says anything like proper about it. It's just kind of like part of his, mahaha, I'm a cult leader, and
I mean, isn't that kind of what the Last Man on Earth does also? With its ending?
It kind of does, but that has its other main point, which is he is the monster. He is the one who's been hunting them. And he mentions it in this scene. He kind of just, he offhandedly says, oh, to us, you're the monster.
How many did you kill today, and how many did you kill before then?
Yeah. But they're so maniacally evil the whole time, you don't feel any sympathy. Because in the last movie, they're all dumb, so you kind of feel sad for them that he's hunting them, because they're scared of him. In this movie, you never get the sense that they're scared of him. It just feels like a rival gang who want to kill him.
Yeah.
It never feels like they're actually terrified of him.
Yeah, and even the people that we meet, through Lisa, they're all like, they mention that they can hear him shooting the I want to call them cultists because that's what they look like. They're not really vampires.
No, they're not vampires. They're like, I don't know, mutants or I don't know, dwellers. They're city dwellers. I don't know. But anyway, so they're going to like burn them at the stake or something, right? And they're
going to crucify him and burn him,
right? But they put him in a little cart. They put him in a little cart to take him to like the football stadium or whatever they're taking him to, and for some reason they've put him in this like pointy white hat. What did you make of this hat here?
I made it. I mean, their costumes are dorky, so they must revere dorkiness. So they put the dorky hat on him, the dunce hat on him.
It was like a child's birthday hat that you get, one of those like just cone ones that are like cardboard, but really tall. So it just looked like it looked like he was like a cosplayer, like a kid
playing a wizard. Yeah.
It wasn't on for very long. It kind of fell off quite quickly.
It reminded me of the Boy and His Dog and that underground civilization that also had like these weird style decisions, just like this the post-apocalypse, and this is what we agree is what people wear, and then this is the standard now. This is the status quo. So they have their costumes, and then they give him a tall white hat. The tall white hat of death.
But he's saved. Dutch, who's a new character, flashes some big lights at him.
Arnold's in this?
Not that Dutch. If only. He'd be like a teenager at this time, did he not?
He's probably still huge.
He's probably still huge, but he's probably a teenager just in the context of, when pumping iron and all that was. Anyway, but obviously Lisa's there too, and Lisa, again, it foreshadows the ending because she says, spread him, because he puts his arms out, he's like, no, like I was going to crucify you. So it's really, because the final visual of this movie is so on the nose with its imagery, I almost did like a spin in my chair. I was like, what? And spun around and was like, are you serious? We're going to make it this obvious?
Yeah, after he got speared in the side.
I get it. He died so this new civilization could exist. He's the Jesus. He's the Jesus in the metaphor. We get it, movie. We get it. Charlton Heston, Moses wasn't enough. Now he's Jesus effing Christ. Okay? We get it.
Yeah. I mean, they try to crucify him too. They bring out a crucifix.
They
They're going to burn him on.
They do. But so there's a little bit of a standoffish. We get this motorcycle sequence where she's got a motorcycle ready and makes him ride it. And every time it cut to a wide shot of the motorcycle riding, the stunt double with the grey wig on.
It's so obvious.
I know, it looks so bad. I mean, there's a lot of good stunts here where they're riding up and down stairs and they're riding around the stadium. There's just fun stuff to
watch. And there
watch.
are parts where it is him. It is Heston, but like...
Only close-ups.
Yeah, only...
Yeah. Every wide shot I kill it. And I think what bugged me about it is that it wasn't even just the wide shots where it was driving fast or downstairs. Like, there's wide shots where they're just kind of like still, but it was still the stunt double. I'm like, no, why wouldn't you just put Heston on the goddamn bike for that shot? Like, you're not moving. So I don't know. That's what it is. Ah, dear. But anyway, so they go out to this little haven that they've got with a bunch of kids who are still okay. Some of them are sensitive to light, so they're kind of turning really slowly, and like Lisa's brother is already like halfway turned. He's kind of turned because they all go kind of like really, really pale. And Heston, as we got like a quick flashback earlier, he actually had made a vaccine and gave it to himself, but it was too late to give to anyone else. So his blood has antibodies. So he's going to start taking blood so they can hopefully cure him, and that's kind of the goal. They take him back to his place so he can give him blood. Over some time, and as this happens, him and Lisa kind of like flirt and fall for each other, and they have sex, and
they are the last people on Earth.
That's what they say. They say, hey, you're the last girl on Earth, so I might as well. That's basically it's basically his argument. But they flirt a bit. There's a bit of chemistry. It's not just completely.
I like their chemistry. I thought it worked well. Plus, they're both pretty lonely. They're both adults.
It'd be very easy to have this feel creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be very easy to do that. So I'm glad. I'm glad that not only did it not feel creepy that he wanted to do this, but I'm also glad that immediately she was shown to have power. She was shown to she had him at gunpoint first. She had him. She was in charge. It made it very clear this wasn't like some lopsided power dynamic. No,
and she was the first one to flirt with him.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, she's probably the best character in the movie, if I'm thinking about it.
She's really cool. I really liked her.
I think Heston is just too Charlton Heston and isn't really particularly likable. And then I think the villains are all hammy and cheesy as shit. I think Lisa's probably the best character.
Yeah. And I like it when he goes full Heston. But he's a man from a certain time.
Aye. Oh dear. Yeah, I mean that's kind of where the movie's going. The more interesting thing that happens though is that they do manage to save her brother Richie, who when he wakes up and he's talking to Charlton Heston, he does actually pose maybe the interesting moral questions that the movie should really be about. And it kind of it never goes far enough with it, which is a shame, but it does at least raise them a little bit, where he says, okay, well, if we're going, because he's agreed to leave, this, I'll go live in the mountains somewhere away from the city, away from all these other mutants and whatever, and we'll just, live.
Yeah.
And the kid says, well, we have a serum now, and you're saying that my blood will help cure people too, so it's going to be easier to do, so why don't we cure everyone? Why don't we cure all of them? And Heston, I think, cementing that he's kind of a monster and unlikable, which I don't think the movie goes out of its way enough to actually do, because up until now, he's just been like charming action hero, but He says, nah, they're vermin. They don't deserve to be cured.
It's I think it's just he's been at war with them for so long that he can't see them as human anymore.
Yeah.
But because these people are starting to turn, like he can, like if you're not fully turned yet, I can save you. But as soon as you go all the way, you're done. I mean, he has a little bit of an arc at the end because he gives the serum to Lisa, right?
Yeah, because Lisa turns shockingly quick, where she goes out to get some
they
clothes.
mentioned that in the in the movie. They're like, it can either happen in 10 minutes or 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, and then she's just completely turned when she sees him again at the end. So yeah, I like that this question was raised, and then the kid's like, you know what, I'm going to prove that the Matthias can be saved, that he's reasonable, and the kid goes to see him, but Matthias also because this was the thing, I think for us to see Charlton Heston as the monster and these other beings as like sympathetic, I don't think you can have their leader kill this child, which he does, because when Heston gets there to try and save him, the kid's already dead. Matthias just hates Charlton Heston so much that he just assumed this was a trick and killed the child.
I thought it was more like, if we don't care that you have a cure because this is still fine. Like we may not be human anymore, but we're something new and we're not lesser because of it.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it less evil that he killed the kid.
Well, of course not. But like, I thought that was the message he was sending, not like, I just freaking hate that guy so much, I'm going to kill his lackey.
I don't know, it came across to me, because the way he said the speech when he was talking to the kid, he just kind of stood up and was like, no, this is a trick, we hate him, and like this is a trick from him. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily think what you're saying is not true as well, but I feel like he does been driven by hate, so it felt so petty to me that I feel no sympathy for these characters. If anything, all this movie really does is make me feel for the kids that are leaving, because at the end when Charlton Heston gets speared and dies, and he's like freeze frame crucifix pose in this fountain, and he's given the serum to the Dutch and the kids, and it says, here, take Lisa and cure. It feels like he's dying for this new society of these children to go and like start something, not the people who are in the city who have been infected. Like, they're goners. So it's kind of a weird thing where it changes who we're supposed to care about.
Once they get their super blood, they can make the decision to go back and try to save them.
Oh, they can, yeah. But the movie doesn't necessarily, set that up or, like, raise that idea.
I mean, not all heroes are the classic hero.
Well, that's okay. But what I'm saying is that in the original movie, the idea was that we then felt sympathy for the monsters because it was no man that he is the monster, so they're the sympathetic ones who get to live continuously. This movie makes me dislike both.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking it was more of like the Searchers type of ending where he's like, I don't see these people as human anymore, but he makes an exception for Lisa at the end when he's dying because he does like have a connection with her to save her. So there's a little bit of an arc there, but I don't know, maybe I'm reaching.
No, I get what you're saying. I think it makes it really hard to kind of root for everything that's going on. And you have this group of kids who are leaving to hopefully go and live a happy life somewhere, but...
Except for that blonde kid with the really derpy face. He's not going to have an easy life.
I think that the original... I keep saying the original. It's weird to say that because they're just both based on the same story. So it's just... Yeah. I feel wrong given the first movie, the classification of the original, because it's not really the original idea, but... I think it's more of an interesting and nuanced idea to make the main character be the villain to what we've been seeing as the enemy, but they're actually the sympathetic ones. Whereas here, making them not be sympathetic actually just makes it this muddy kind of war where both sides are villainous and neither side are good. And maybe there's actually an interesting real science fiction debate to be had there about just how bad people get on both sides when conflict keeps rising. Maybe like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where there's villains on both sides of the camp and like how it builds up. But I don't think this movie's actually really tackling anything with any nuance. It's just kind of, that's really blatant Jesus imagery at the end. It's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, and you get Charlton Heston, who's known for playing biblical characters.
I'll just put it this way. I think Zack Snyder liked this movie.
Gross. Hey, that kid that played Richie grew up to be a director.
Oh, that's cool. Anything that I might have...
Mostly TV. He did
mostly TV?
Lost and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Oh, and S.H.I.E.L.D. Did he just a S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes?
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
Oh, and Black Lightning and Lethal Weapon TV show. Oh, This kid's actually had quite a little good TV career.
Yeah, how about that?
Good for him. Good for him. Oh, his photo on IMDb. This is not a current photo. He's an adult, but it's not a current photo. This is
it's a great photo though.
This is funky 80s version of this kid.
I bet he's got hammer pants on.
No, good for him. Yeah, actually, that was the one thing I want to talk about is when Heston comes back and Richie the kid's missing because he's went off to the bad guys. I love, and I'm just saying for the record, I'm just saying bad guys because I don't even know what to call the group because they don't have a name. So I'm acknowledging that they're not just the bad guys, but it's just for lack of a better term. He immediately like starts gearing up. He's got like an army like jeep, and like he's got like.
I love that he puts the general ammunition. Hat on.
Yeah. He's
like,
gearing up for war.
I'm going to war, a one-man army.
Yeah, I don't know. It made me laugh. It just made me laugh that he did such a thing. That
he played dress up to go to war. I liked it. I think this movie is really it gives off like a bit of a confidence. Like it is super modern for the 70s, but I think like I don't know. I think it's really bold to have an interracial couple, like because you would imagine it would be like some 18-year-old blonde girl playing Lisa.
Oh sure, I agree, but I mean I think it's saying something though that is by far the most notable thing about this movie.
Definitely,
because nothing else in the movie is that honestly that memorable. Like that's the one thing that sticks out in it.
The opening is pretty memorable, where he just whips out like a Tommy gun and starts shooting up Los Angeles.
It's memorable for the wrong funny reasons because he's Charlton Heston and because of cold dead hands and all that jazz. Yeah. That's why it's funny. On its own, it wasn't necessarily that amusing.
And it's interesting that it starts off like scene, like the scene's going. There's no like credits for like the first couple minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no like movie studio logo at the start either.
No, it's just we're in a desolate city, and there's like not really any dialogue. And then he cuts to Heston driving around the red car, very much like the opening of The Last Man on Earth. I don't know. I like the way it opened.
Yeah,
it was just kind of startling. Like, oh, we're going already. There's no like build up.
We actually skipped over something just before the ending. After he tries to save the kid and fails, when he goes there and he's already dead, which felt like a super dark moment to its credit. It felt really dark.
Yeah, definitely.
They killed that kid. But when he gets back, Matthias is waiting at his place for him because Lisa, now in zombie form or whatever you want to call it, is let them in, and they have him. And it's funny because earlier on in the film there's a scene where Matthias' right hand man, who's there for the first few times we see him, tries to sneak into his apartment. It's when Lisa's there for the first time, and he's like climbing up to the balcony and he's going in, and there's a line before he goes up, and when he goes up, sure enough, Heston just shoots him. But there's a line before he goes up where he says, be wary, brother, for this one is lucky. And later on when they're having this standoff and it's like he's really lost finally, he then like grabs Matthias and he's able to like hold him as a hostage with a blade, and he grabs Lisa and runs out, and this is what leads to the ending at the fountain. I actually thought, yeah, we're actually at the point now where he's surviving so much every time he's in like this dire straits where the chips are down, he's completely gone, and he keeps surviving. He's a Mary Sue, is what I'm saying. He's a Charlton Heston's a Mary Sue in this film. That's what I'm calling him.
I hate that term.
So do I, but that's why it's funny to use it for Charlton Heston.
The man knows how to operate a generator, a projection.
He's a scientist. He's also basically an expert with firearms, and he can fix up cars. I mean, maybe
he's probably in a war.
Maybe there's a time when this was just something that was expected of every man. Every man should know how to do all of these things.
Yes. Men now are weak. That's why they blame everything on women. Just kidding.
Yeah, because I'm sure the men of this era were problematic when it came to women.
Yeah. I don't think Charlton Heston is excluded from that.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume so. But hey, I mean, it's not a bad one. I think it's an easy enough like afternoon watch. I guess it's a Sunday afternoon movie if there ever was one. But
that's when I watched it.
That's true. I watched it Sunday evening. A little bit different, but not too different. I wouldn't say I would say that I mildly like it. It's you know it's, but I wouldn't say I like it. You know, I definitely don't love it or think it's great. I would definitely take those terms off the table. Good, borderline. There's too many flaws for me. I hate the villains, and I think as much as the Vincent Price one isn't like a great movie either, it's definitely lacking in some areas. I still think that movie at least tried to make the point at the end of what the point of the story is. Even though I do think both that and this one both have faults, where I think this one almost kind of glosses over the post-apocalyptic part. You know, there's very little that actually focuses on, outside of the opening, of course, where it focuses on like the feeling of being alone in the world. And there's so many characters so quickly that it never really feels like that's there in the movie.
Well, I think the Vincent Price one does a better job of, like, he has a routine that he sticks to. Like, we see him, the first shot is him waking up like to an alarm, right? And like, I have to start my day, I have my errands to run, because once it gets to night, I'm not going to be able to do anything but survive. So, and we don't really get that in this. He just like drives around and then goes to the movies and then has to race home.
Do you know what's funny is that thinking back to I Am Legend, which we'll do relatively soon. You know, when I say I mean like within the next few months we'll do I Am Legend, right? To wrap this up, is that I think that is probably the best of the three from memory. But much like these two, it does also have its problems. Mainly, I remember thinking the CG, because the baddies are all CG in the new one.
They're all rubber men, right?
Yeah, and I remember thinking they look terrible. Not in the same way that I think the ones in this look terrible. Here, it's just a design choice that I think's stupid. And that is just because they chose to make them visual effects and they just look bad. And that's maybe not the only problem, but I remember liking. I think the next one really handles the feeling of him being alone and his loneliness, and it really emphasizes just how empty New York is. I think it does a better job of those things, and it is definitely the one that's the hardest hitting because of that. But we'll see if I agree with myself when I see it again, because I saw it once in theaters, and you know I didn't like it enough to buy it, so you know. So we'll see how it holds
Probably
up.
because that dog scene, right?
It's traumatizing. We'll get to it. So what was your final thoughts, and rate the movie out of 10?
I did enjoy watching it. I think there is a bit of an arc. I don't hate the cultist look. I actually kind of liked the villain, so I think I'm just a little bit more positive overall, and I had a better experience than you did watching it. But I certainly don't think it's great either. And some of the things that are pretty dated about it, I find a bit endearing to watch. So maybe that's why. And I don't know. I'm glad I watched it. I do think it's a little bit better than the 50s one. 50s or 60s? 50s, right?
Yeah, 60s. Yeah, 64.
60s. I do think it's better than that one, but only slightly.
Only slightly.
Yeah, just for entertainment value. I'm going to go with a 7. I think a 7 is fair.
I think this probably does have a bit more light entertainment value than the 60s one, but I think the 60s one has more of a dramatic point that it makes. So I think I prefer that one a little bit over this one. But neither are knocks out the park, though. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. Yeah, not a bad watch, but certainly could be better. And we'll see if I Am Legend is worth anything compared to these two soon.
But not before Beware the Blob.
No, not before that.
Is that our next one? Or is it Logan's Run? 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, you guys will get Logan's Run and Beware the Blob.
Yes. If you made it this far in the review, give us the word
Alpha and Omega.
Yes, put Alpha and Omega in the comments if you got this far in the review. Oh, jeez.
That's the bomb in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, for anyone
that's
who doesn't
right.
know.
Yes, that's right. I remember.
Also with Charlton Heston. Alpha and Omega.
So do that. I'm going to make Tara do her pose for the thumbnail. So.
Oh, God. I don't know why you still asked me to do it.
3, 2, 1, pause. But you like this movie. Why did you pick up that look?
I don't know. It's just how I was feeling at the time.
Okay. So yeah, that has been the Omega Man. Let us know in the comments what you think of
The Omega Man?
the Omega Man. Yes. We mentioned Patreon earlier. We mentioned liking and subscribing, all those things. So please do them. Of course, you can get us on the Twitters at the Ace Podcast if you want to get updates on stuff and whatnot. So please do that. Otherwise, Tara, would you like to promote anything else that we do on Male Fuzz TV?
Well, we are still fresh on a new series called Babylon 5, so please check out our already canceled feed and watch Babylon 5 along with us. Still pretty early in season 1, so it's easy to catch up if you've always wanted to watch it, or if you're already a fan of Babylon 5. Yes.
Excellent. Well, that about does it then. So thank you once again for watching or listening. Hopefully you're enjoying 70s month. Keep watching science fiction and computer at Salsa.
Never a cop around when you need one.